respects for eyes. I can see right through you.
Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and I'm here with
Mike Snyderman, as usual.
As usual, yes. And if my voice sounds like an extra crisp tenor, it's for a good reason. I picked up I didn't pick up. I got a brand new microphone from my wife for Christmas. So we're putting this thing to use, and I hope that my voice comes across with crystal clear clarity across the airwaves.
That's either a sign that she's a very supportive wife who wants to help you with your new pursuit, or you're kind of getting on her nerves and she just wants you to spend as much time as possible, in the garage with a microphone.
Probably a little bit of both.
Okay. Well, that would be what expected.
I'm coming to you right now from Las Vegas. I've been out here for Christmas with the family, and I got to play a little poker out here. Didn't play any tournaments. My mom's been killing it at tournaments. She's a low limit tournament player just for fun, and she played. I think she's played 13 or 14 tournaments so far, and she's cashed in like 6 of them.
Whoa!
And I wish some of that good variance would come.
Why am I talking to you, by the way?
I know exactly.
Let's get an actual expert on here.
My dad was saying we should do an episode just talking to her.
Oh, definitely.
Might not be such a bad idea. At least it'd get a woman's perspective, what it's like sitting at the table. I know I've heard from her and other girls that it's definitely different, but.
She's a thoroughbred too. 13 tournaments. So she's grinding where they got like a $60 noon tournament, and then she can do another one at 8 p.m. or whatever, something like that. Yeah,
she plays between the Luxor and the Excalibur. I think they're like $45 or $50 a tournament. And so they got one at 10:30, and then at the Luxor, and then they have another one at noon at Excalibur. So if she busts out of one, then she hightails it on one of those speeding platforms, like they have in the airports. They got one of those linking the Excalibur and the Luxor. Huh. And so she's like a little rabbit. She'll run over to the next one and enter into that, sometimes late reg just to get in, and she'll play that. And then if she busts out, there's always a tournament between those two within 30 minutes of each other. So she goes over there. She leaves the house at 9:45, and she gets there 20 minutes early or whatever. I typically, if the tournament starts at 10:30, I leave the house at about 10:20. I'm usually miss the first level or so. Sometimes I take a nap in the car before I go in, but she doesn't miss a hand. And she'll just bounce from one to the next and the next, and she'll do that till about 6 o'clock at night and then come home. She's been doing that every single day except for Christmas. It's pretty funny.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did you get her into poker, or was this something she's done for many years?
You know what? I remember as a kid we were playing like penny ante poker, and I think I used to play blackjack before I played poker, and then I think I must have brought her to the casino, and we'll have to get her on. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember if I got her into it or if she got me into it, but. For whatever reason, we both like to play. My dad plays every now and then. My brother used to play quite a bit. He used to play 4-8 limit fairly seriously, and then he switched to sports betting. But I don't know if it's just in our blood or what. But I don't know who got who into it. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I'd have to ask her.
No, I can't wait for. This is, I guess, episode 5, and episode 4 is not yet up on iTunes, but. I'm really, really can't wait to listen to that. To remember exactly what we talked about. I just think it's like I said, I hadn't slept for almost a day and a half, and it was just a hive of madness. So, anyways, it's good here. Today I'm like couple calming breaths before we start, and hopefully, I still might become hysterical and bitching about bad beats, and I'm just. But anyways,
you're a little more lucid.
But I remember, I just remember last time it was just me griping about the misery of existence, and then you're like, "Well, I got a couple of hands to discuss." I'm like, "Steve, I'm going to bed."
Yeah. How do you feel now? Do you feel better?
Yeah. A little better. I couldn't feel worse. I went back, I guess a couple nights ago, and I actually followed your advice and played 2-3, sort of accidentally. There was a wait for the 5-5. Normally, if there's a wait for the 5-5, I just actually take a book and read, or just play around on my phone. But I said, yeah, let's sit down at 2-3, and I got like a little double up and made like $300, and then went to 5-5, and I was up as much as like 1,500. Unfortunately, I left just to hit up like 600, but it was a winning session.
Good for you.
And I like my overall way of dealing with stuff, I suppose.
Good for you.
Because I did take a couple bad beats, but last night I actually registered real late for the nightly the high roller on Merge, the 25K guarantee, and I finally tabled it, and unfortunately only got 7th place. I had
how many people were in it?
Probably like 160 or something like that. Right. First place was 6,600. Okay. So 7th place was just 1,100, and again, as usual. I mean, still, it's.
Oh, that's good. What was the buy-in? Like $50 or
$200?
Oh, 200. Oh, okay.
$250, 215. Okay. So, anyways, it's a few more bucks for the bankroll, and like I said, it's been so bad this month I have to just like understand I'm not gonna get it back in a couple of days. It's gonna be. Yeah. Just try to be profitable from now and rebuild.
Good for you. Good for you. That's a big step, Mike, for you to be able to. While you're waiting, sit and play 2-3, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I am what I am. I mean, I got a lot of work to do on myself, but yeah, that's the other thing. I didn't do any of your like, we talked about some of the prep stuff you do, and I did make a point of just putting my headphones on and listening to like 2 minutes of like classical music as I like walked into the casino. And just try to get in. So, baby steps here, like I said, but just trying to.
That's still a big step. You're changing your routine.
Tilt management is just such a huge part of it. It really is. I mean, especially if you're going to do it full time, where it can get so bad, and if you can't just put all the history behind you and just try to play each hand properly, you're you're screwed. So. Yeah. But we don't want to need to cover that ground again. Do you want to maybe tonight just do something a little different and jump right into strategy and talk some hands?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I've got. You want me to go first, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've done 3 sessions so far. I did one the day after Christmas. I drove out here on Christmas. Did one the day after Christmas. So by the time you guys are listening to this, it'll be a little bit later. But played at the Bellagio one day, and then I played at. When did I play another day? Oh, and then I played at Binion's, and then I played at the Aria. And boy, I tell you what, playing there, I'd heard that a lot of pros play there, and now I understand why. I normally would play at the Bellagio and the Venetian and the Wynn. The Aria, I think, is my new favorite. It is. Now, they allow you to call ahead and get on the list because it's, at least when I went there was a waiting list of 16 people just to get on 1-3. Same thing for 2-5. I don't know what the other limits were because I had no interest in playing any higher than that. But
is it a small room? Could they not just open another table? Or I guess
that's what blows me away. I'm like, I asked the lady. I said, do you usually have a list like this? She said, yeah, always. And I'm like looking, and they could very easily expand the room. I don't know why they don't, but maybe they like keeping it like that, like kind of exclusive or something. I don't know. There's no jackpot or anything like that, so there's no dollar drop every hand for some jackpot that they take another rake of, which is kind of nice. Okay. They don't. They give you $2 an hour for playing instead of $1 an hour like most other rooms. It's just a nice room. It's a nice room. I like it, and the competition was pretty slim. There was one other pro at my table, but the rest was just tourists that were having a beer and playing way too loose. And
how much can you buy in for at 1-3?
The 100 to 300. So the max is 3. So that's
300 max again. Okay.
Yeah. And as far as the 2-5, I didn't ask, but I seem to remember Jonathan Little. I think he said that the max is 500, but that was on a podcast that was a year old, so I don't know if it's changed. Or I should have asked. I forgot. I didn't even think about it.
Oh, that was the first thing. Quickly to go back to my little 30 minutes I spent at 2-3, but I was telling you how no one could possibly make a living off it, and of course never being there. But I sat down, and I'm used to 5-5, so I wasn't really paying attention. Some guy had a big stack of $100 chips. I'm like, wait a second, this is a 2-3 table. I'm looking at his chips. He's got about $2,600 there.
Whoa.
And I'm like, dude, when did you sit down? He's like, oh, about 5 hours ago. I'm assuming that's about as good as it gets. He's like almost a 9x of your entry. I mean, that would be like having 13 or 14,000 at 5.5 if you bought in. I mean, I didn't really get into the hands. He's like, a few people were like nodding. He's won every single hand.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be normally. You don't make $500 an hour at 2-3, obviously, but it was.
Well, the most I've ever seen at my club was a guy. He had a little over 2K in front of him, and he'd been there all day. So he'd been there like 8 or 9 hours, and that was the most I'd ever seen. He was playing well, and he was running well, but the most I've ever made, I think, is. Let's see, I walked away with like 12. I walked away with $1 under a grand, so I walked away with $999 after a 5-hour session. That was the most I've ever done, 2-3.
Right.
But yeah, there are days like that, but that is an exceptional day. If he had 26 in front of him after 5 hours, I've never seen that, but it can obviously happen because he did it,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, like I said, I didn't get the details, but it was funny how I was kind of saying, you just can't make any money at this game. And, this guy was, like I said, unusual. But anyways, let's go to your hands. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. First one I got, this was at the Bellagio. I was playing 1-3, no limit. I got, let's see, under the gun +1. He raised to $12. Now, this guy, looking at him, he was a young guy, probably English speaking, from America for sure. Looked to be maybe in his, I'm guessing 27 to 30 years old, somewhere in that range. A tourist, wasn't a local, didn't live in Vegas, and just playing to have fun. He was drinking coffee, so he wasn't drinking beer. This was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He raised to $12, and I'd seen him raise before, but that was about it. Just a raise, and then I'd seen him fold to 3-bet. Then there was a calling station in middle position who was literally calling everything. He was probably playing 19 out of 20 hands, and that's no exaggeration. He was calling everything. He just wanted to see a flop. One of those guys. Perfect customer.
Right.
So under the gun +1, the late 20s kid, he raised to $12. Then the calling station called the $12. Then I'm on the button. Hero's on the button, and I look down at Queen. What are you thinking here as far as sizing? Because you got under the gun +1 raised to 12. The calling station calls. In my mind, I want to raise and get heads up with the calling station. But what are you thinking here? Like, what would your raise size be? You got 27 in the pot.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to think you could go a little bigger here. If if it's a calling station, he's going to really want to see he's really going to want to see a flop with his cards, so he might pay a little extra.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would guess, I think I'd go, might even go like 42 or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know if that's like I would probably go around that much. The guy who in early position, even though he's obviously there to have fun, I mean, is under the gun +1. Do you put him on is he opening like ace-3? I mean, just curious about it. I guess we can kind of range him afterwards, depending on. But if he folds, I guess it's not.
I'd seen him play about an hour, and in my mind, when he raised there, he had 9s plus, ace-jack suited plus, something like that.
Okay, so he's positionally aware, and
yeah, he's not going to be raising there with he's not going to be raising there with 4s, maybe as low as 7s or 8s, but I don't know. I don't really think so. He was limping probably a fair amount of hands. And when I say fair, I probably say 25% or something like that. Playing 25% of his hands. So he was fairly loose, but when he raised, it usually meant he had something, as far as I'd seen.
Okay, so what did you bet?
Well, I raised it 35. Um, I raised it 35, and I expected under the gun +1 to think about it and fold because I'm on the button. I got position. It looks like a strong raise. And to my surprise, he took about a second and a half, and then he shoved all in. And he shoved 183. And he did it very quickly. And then the calling station actually thought for a while. And I thought, wow, if he calls, this is going to be very interesting. But he didn't. He eventually folded. And then it's back on me. And so he shoved 183. What's 183 minus 35?
148.
Okay. And it's on me to call.
Yeah, obviously you're getting less than. Well, I mean, what is he shoving with? Is obviously the only. Before you do, you want to. I mean, is he shoving with tens or jacks? If he is, then it's an easy call. You're ahead of his range. But I mean, my first instinct would be, especially if he's like insta jamming, it's ace king, kings, or it's aces kings or ace king.
That was my thought.
I would be leaning a little more towards if it's like the insta jam. Of course, I've made this mistake before, where someone like jams really quick, and you're like, well, if they had aces or kings, wouldn't they wait a second, try to make it look like they didn't love their hand? Like the insta jam, I'm always like, okay, that's ace king.
Yeah.
In which case, if you knew that face up, you'd call here. But yeah, I don't know.
I took my time. I took probably at least a minute, maybe more, and I was thinking about what would he do that with, and the way he was acting, like when I saw him look at his cards, what he did just before he shoved was he looked back at his hand real quick, and then he shoved his cards in. He when I re-raised as well, he kind of sat up in his chair. While I was thinking, he was drinking his coffee, leaning back in his chair. He looked extremely confident to me, and I just couldn't picture him doing that with jacks. I mean, I don't think he's doing that with tens or nines or anything less than that, and I really couldn't picture him doing that with jacks. I figured he'd peel with jacks. Maybe he would do that with ace king suited, but I kind of came to the same conclusion you did. I'm like, I put in $35 and it's almost 150 for me to call.
Yeah, he has it.
I just figured he had it, and I eventually mucked my hand.
Good for you, man.
I think I made the right laydown, and as time went on, I was there for several hours, and I never saw him do that again. That was the only hand I ever saw him do that. So as more and more time went on, like other people, I 3-bet him again other times when I had it, hoping that he would come over the top, but he never did. He would always either call or fold, and so that made me think that it was a good laydown then, after the fact as more time went on, because I never saw him do it again.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it'd be one thing, and especially if you're playing your normal game, he hasn't been seeing you, he hasn't been watching you just raise every pot and try to bully people around. You're playing your normal, tight, aggressive game.
I was playing tight, yeah.
So he's going to, I mean, if for some reason, he bet and like 4 other people called, and then you raised, maybe he's thinking, this guy's, it's such a good squeeze spot. And there's so much money in there, maybe he thinks about shoving it in there a little lighter. But yeah, I think that sounds like a really good fold. I wish I could do that.
I think it was. You can. You're selling yourself short, and you do. It's just. I think that was a fold there, and at the time I wasn't too sure, so I went out when I take a 10-minute break every 50 minutes just to kind of clear my head and walk around, and I wrote this hand down when I took my break, and then over the next couple of hours, as I never saw him do that again, it kind of solidified in my mind. I'm like, I think that was the right move.
Yeah, did did this hand affect anything in the future there? Like, if you ever opened under the gun before, did you have like a strong hand? You're like, hey, I'm just going to flat here. I want to see a flop with this. I guess you're always raising with queens. That doesn't really change. This hand doesn't change anything.
No, I don't think it did change anything after that, except when I 3-bet him again. Then I did it again with jacks, and I think I did it with tens.
Okay.
But yeah, I did it then, and I think with one of them he called, and with another one he folded. So I was waiting to see if he would jam on me again, and then that would like kind of be, oh well, maybe I got had when I had queens, but he never did.
I'm often like can be real gambly early in a session, and I have to get that to stop. I mean, like, just here it's like, okay, $35, which is, a good bet you put in. You don't want to say goodbye to it, but it's better than, being down already more than half a buy-in.
Yeah.
Only 1 hour into a session, because then you're almost like, you're hoping to break even, just dig out of that hole.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's, I wish I could think along those lines, not only about just ranging the guy, but just looking at the whole, larger picture, about how much money do you have in the pot? I don't need to win this hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, if at the time if it was borderline, you weren't sure, if you saw the guy not, only say all in once over the next 6 hours, then it's pretty obvious you made the right fold.
I think I did. Yeah. And then, I mean, if he put a move on me, good for him. But I don't think he was doing that with jacks or worse. I don't think so. I think the best case scenario, I was up against ace king suited, and even then, I'm only a slight favorite. I guess with the extra money in the pot, it's obviously a clear call if he flips his cards over. But I can't imagine him doing that with ace king offsuit or worse than kings. Maybe he was doing it with my hand, but good for him. he pulled it off, and that's possible too. But there's not too many combinations of queen when I have that in my hand, So, but I've got another one at the same table, basically the same. Same players. I've got. Let's see, early position, the same guy. This is later on, about an hour later. The same guy calls $3. The calling station, of course, calls, because this is one of the 19 out of 20 hands. He calls $3. Middle position calls $3, and then I'm in late position, and I look down of 10 of clubs and 10 of diamonds. So we got 1, 2, 3 callers, and it's on me. And I end up raising to 18 at this point. I figure I'm in the I'm in the hijack. So I got to get through the cutoff and the button to get position. And so with 3 limpers, I figured I definitely want the calling station in there. And the other 2 guys, if they come, so be it. But I want to gain position on the cutoff and the button. I don't want them to get in. So I made it 18, and the cutting and the butt off. The cutoff and the button both fold, and then the early position caller, the
villain from last hand,
villain from last hand calls, and then the calling station calls, and middle position folds. So we go to the flop, 3-way.
$57 in the pot, yeah, or 58, yeah,
$58 in the pot, and the flop is probably about as good as it's going to get for pocket tens. It's 9 of spades, 4 of spades, 2 of clubs. Okay. I have the 10 of clubs and the 10 of diamonds. Okay, so I don't have the 10 of spades for what that's worth. I do have an overpair to the board. So with $58 in the pot. Early position checks, the calling station checks, and now it's on me. What are you thinking of betting here? I mean, you're betting, right? You're not going to check.
No, yeah, you're betting. At least half pot. Usually more. I would $35.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty straightforward bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a particularly complicated one, because you don't want to I mean, I don't even really think about the balancing the range stuff. I mean, it's pretty. You got an overpair. You're gonna have the best hand here. 80% of the time. So yeah, put some money in there. Taking it down is a good outcome. Them calling isn't a terrible outcome either. I don't think so.
Yeah, I made it 40, and I was hoping to get heads up with the calling station, just because he's a calling station, and that's exactly what happened. Early position folded, and the calling station called 40. So we go to the now at this point he only has 60 behind. So he took a long time to call, and I think he's one of those players that the impression I got was he's one of the players that kind of knows the odds and knows what he should do. He just doesn't follow it. He doesn't.
Right.
Because I could see him counting the pot. Like it was obvious. His eyes were darting from chip to chip, and I could see him mouthing numbers. And
so do you think he's actually calculating the flush draw possibilities?
That's what I put him on. Yeah, just the way he was counting and stuff, and you could tell like he knew that he wasn't getting the right odds, but he's a calling station, so he's got to call.
Right.
He just can't help it.
I mean, is he a calling station that's, you think, capable of making occasionally the big move to put you in a tough spot?
Yeah, actually he is.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, when you said you want to get in pots with the calling station, yeah, for the most part you do when you have it. But yeah, the calling station, the guy who's calling, pre-flop too much, but, is flop dependent after the flop is also. So yeah, so it sounds, yeah, I would definitely, he's actually moving his lips, and as he counts, you can actually see him counting.
Yeah, it was, at one point I was thinking like, is he leveling me by doing this, or does he not realize he's doing it, or like, what's going on here? And I'm like, well, he's obviously not that good if he's playing 19 out of 20 hands. I'm
Right.
like, just go with go with thinking that he's counting the pot until proven otherwise here when, if you see his hand.
But maybe he could have a set and he's making it look like he's counting the flush draw. Like he's a lunatic that has some has a few Jedi moments where he gets people to pay him off or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But
okay, so he calls.
He calls. We go to the turn. There's 138 in the pot. Now the thing was, when he called, he only had $100 bill left, and so he threw the $100 bill in. And I didn't hear if he said call or all in. I was hoping he said all in. But I kind of waited to see what the dealer would do before I made any kind of action, because I didn't want to give away any information. And then the dealer counted out 60 in the pot and then handed it back to him and threw the $100 bill in. So that's when I realized that he called. Right. And I was like, okay, all right, well, now we got to play.
So what would, before the turn comes, are you already... I would be the mentality looking at $60 is like, it doesn't really matter what the turn is.
That's where I was at.
Like, if he's got a flush draw, fine, sir. Go ahead. You're going to get paid off. But anyway, that's my initial reaction. But I mean, if your ability to read things is much better than me. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't even care who the villain is. I'd be half through spite here. If the guy's not getting odds to call a flush draw and he's still calling, it's like, okay, good for you, sir. But anyways.
Yeah, my mind was he plays so many hands. If something like the 3 of spades comes and he puts $60 in, I think I kind of got a call, because I'm getting like more than 2 to 1. Now, if it's something like the king or the ace of spades, then I feel like I kind of got a decision to make. You know what I mean? Like maybe
right.
I was wrong about the flush draw. Maybe hit an overpair. Maybe you know what I mean? I don't know. But when I saw that he just called, then the turn came pretty quick, and I didn't have to think about it too much. But I definitely put him on a flush draw on the
right. But even like if you're already kind of into knowing that there's a lot of cards you're not going to like, the flush getting there obviously, and some paint or the ace. If he shoves all in, you're going to have $198 in there, and you're going to be getting 3.5 to 1 to call.
Yeah, that's
so.
True.
If for some reason I don't know. It's a tough spot. I mean, against a guy who's, if you feel like he has to have it to shove it in there, then I guess it's a fold. But I would be of the mentality where basically the guy only has to be bluffing or throwing it in lighter than tens, like 20% of the time or something. So. But what was the turn card? I'm sorry.
The turn was the 9 of diamonds. So the board right now is 9 of spades, 4 of spades, 2 of clubs, 9 of diamonds. So we got another 9 out there. At first, he checked pretty quickly after that turn came. And at this point, I thought, okay, well, after the way I saw him counting the pot, and after he was, I mean, I've been wrong on this stuff before. Maybe he was counting it for some other reason, but, after I saw that, I knew exactly how many chips he had left in his hand, left in his stack. So I bet 60, and he took a long time, and then he finally called. I flipped over my hand and showed pocket tens, and he didn't do anything until the river came out, and the river was the three of spades, and then that's when I turned to the guy next to me. I'm like, damn it, I think he just got there. And, sure enough, he flipped over queen of spades, seven of spades, and so he ended up getting the flush. I don't know if there's any other way I could have played that. I think that was just. I think I played it well. I got him to put in all this money as a dog.
No, yeah, you played it. You played it fine. You even your bet sizing on the flop was big enough to. You'd think to make the flush draws either just kind of have to gamble and shove it in there, or. Yeah, I mean, you played the hand fine.
Okay.
I thought for a second there, I thought he was gonna slow roll you with like a 9 with a weak kicker. Like he was like paranoid you had like the ace 9 or
ace
something.
9 or something.
Yeah, he's got like jack 9, and he's like, okay. Because I've seen that kind of nonsense before. Of course, I'm sure you have too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you played it fine. The guy just got there, and just grateful that. I mean, I guess. No, I mean you did the right move, especially if the guy's counting on the flop. You know that mathematically he's aware that he's not getting the right odds when you shove there.
Yeah.
He would really want to be getting 4-1 on his money. So if he's got to call 60, he would want there to be really an extra 40 or 50 bucks in to make that mathematically the right call.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was going to say the other option, if you're absolutely sure he's got a flush draw and you're absolutely sure he's going to call if you shove the turn, then you could say, well, I'll just check behind and, hopefully he misses the river and I don't have to. But, no, you want him to get the money in, obviously, there because, yeah, that's your money and, 4 to 5 times. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I thought so what was the overall of these 3 sessions in Vegas so far? What is the overall plus minus the overall profitability here?
Let's see.
You made money?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm, let's see, minus 130 at the Bellagio, plus 32 at Binion's. And actually, I don't remember the last time I've done this, but I played for an hour and a half at the Aria and, exactly 0. It's,
You mean you broke even, or you?
Yeah, I bought in for 300 and left with 300, and that was it. It was very strange. But,
well, when I was having my great November, and I had like a streak of like 10 or 11 sessions, like a couple of them were like $50 or less.
Mm-hmm.
Where I played for like it, you can tell I was probably like down 500 or up 500, and like wanted to leave ahead just to call it a winning session. But yeah, I can't remember ever having a break even one.
Yeah, it was. And it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I got to go pick up my wife. And I'm like, I always leave just before the big blind gets to me. You know what I mean? So if I try to time my sessions so that, you play all the way until you're in an early position. And when the big blind's coming up, then you don't have to pay for a whole nother round,
Sure, of course.
Yeah, it just came around and that was it. And I'm like, and I added up. And when I added up the ones, I'm like, exactly 300. I'm like, well, that's odd. Okay. I don't remember the last time that's happened.
Right.
Minus 130 plus 32. I guess I'm minus 98 after 7 or 8 hours, something like that.
Okay. Well,
so could be worse, could be better. Yeah.
I would love to be only down $98 this month. That would be,
Oh, that's not this month. No,
I would have or whatever. But yeah, yeah, I'm surprised. You're a guy who doesn't necessarily get a lot of time to play poker here. When you're on, vacation, I'm sure I would think you'd be like, just never leaving the tables unless you had, you had to. But you still know when to walk away, I guess.
The way my sessions are going while I'm out here is my wife and her mom, I drop them off at the outlets, and they shop for 4 or 5 hours, or window shop or whatever, and then when they text me that they're done, then I go pick them up, and so I got to wait for 45 minutes and sit around for a table, and then I play for 2.5 or 3 hours, and then I go pick them up, and so those have been my sessions. I haven't got to play any tournaments yet, but actually, I don't really miss tournaments that much. These cash games are really growing on me, and the thing I like about them is that you can sit down and get up whenever you want. You could, if you gotta go to the bathroom, you can go to the bathroom. And like, I can take those, I can play for an hour and then take a 10-minute break and go walk around and kind of stretch and clear my mind, and talk to somebody on the phone and laugh, and then go back to the session. And it's, I don't feel like, I like cash. I didn't, I was so into tournaments for probably 2 or 3 years, just focusing on them. And how many blinds do I have? What level's coming up? When's the next blind going up? All that stuff. It's kind of nice having like the stability of cash, I guess, is a way to put it. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the cash players who just like loathe tourneys.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was playing, I forget, like 5-10 or whatever. But I was with a lot of the regular pros there who do well.
Yeah.
And there was like a $50 tournament going on in the other room. And they were talking about how much money would you have to pay me to play in that.
Wow.
Or to pay each other. One guy's like, I'll give you $200 if you go register for that tournament right now. Just the bad players, and it's just. So I kind of sense that. I mean, once you start going like late, just bagging chips or going late in date, getting close to the bubble, and going. Obviously, if you final table these things, I mean those are so exciting. But like the early stages of a tournament, and especially frustrating, obviously, if somebody makes a bad move and you get crippled.
Yeah.
And then you got to just stay and grind on. Or if a bad player takes a bunch of your chips at a cash table, that you can. Well, I'm getting those back anyways, as long as he sticks around. But at a tournament, if you're short stacked and the guy's got a bunch of chips, a much better chance of him knocking you out than the other way around. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, I can't imagine. I would have to become like a really it would be economics for me. I would have to become a really profitable cash game player to not play tournaments, which right now is obviously does not seem like a likely outcome.
Well, that's your specialty.
Yeah, well, I'm good. I'm good in tournaments. So, so I got a couple hands to discuss here.
Right on. I've now got my pen and paper.
Okay. I thought we're sticking. It's interesting. It was a couple episodes ago. We were talking about the whole. Do you 3-bet ace king from the blinds out of position? And I think I mentioned one time where rather than just calling the bet and just giving up on the flop when it wasn't good, I 3-bet and double barreled, and rather than losing $25, I lost $400 or whatever it was. And this is not an infrequent or unfrequent. I think it's infrequent occurrence.
Infrequent.
Yes. So anyways, ace, it's kind of funny. Both these hands are the same, ace king from the blinds with other people in the pot, and I played them differently. And anyways, we'll discuss. But the first time, I got ace king. I believe I'm the small blind.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, I'm the big blind for this one.
Okay.
And the guy under the gun raises to 30. And he's a pro. Guy I play with all the time. Very good.
Okay.
And there are 3 other people call.
Okay.
I can't remember which positions, 2 from middle, 1 from the button, whatever. And then the small blind folds. And so what do I do? Any suggestions? Yeah. Again, like the bet sizing, it's kind of funny. We also talk about bet sizing. I think you should always lean towards, whether it's C-betting or 3-betting or whatever, like larger bet sizing is just kind of take the pot by the throat kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I 3-bet to 150.
Okay, let's see. So you're in the big blind. Here's in the big blind.
There's 4 people in the pot with $30 each. And and the small blind, so there's 125 in the pot. So I bet to 150 to make it 275. And they got, the first guy is getting better.
Wait, so you raised to 275 or
No, I raised to 150, but there was 275 in the pot now because there's
four people
who put,
Okay.
So, again, like I'm sure there's people a lot more knowledgeable about this game who can give us a better number what it is. I think that's would be about an average squeeze bet from there. Maybe because you're out of position, you want to make it a little more. But I just mentioned this bet sizing because I had a conversation with the villain afterwards, and I asked if I made it 200, would you have folded? He says yes, right away. I don't know. It's just
the first number that popped into my head was 165. I don't know why that popped in there, but 150 just seemed a little bit small to me. That's all.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
I'd like to get heads up here and have everyone else fold. I could see this going like one guy calls and then it's like a domino. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, the original raiser calls, the pro on my left, who I play with all the time. And, that should have gone in like factoring too here, where the under, it's not just four people in there, but the original raiser raised under the gun, and he's a pro who doesn't play a super abundant number of hands.
Yeah.
So the pro calls and the other three players fold.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
And there's now 425 in the pot going to the flop.
Okay.
And the flop is the queen of spades, the eight of spades, and the red three. I think it's the three of diamonds. I do not have. I have ace king off and no spade.
Okay.
So obviously I missed the flop.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be c-betting every time here.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I shouldn't be c-betting every time. In a multi-way pot, I might just check and give up. I don't know. No, I mean, I think c-betting is the right move here. If I wanted to be really bold, I could try to check raise. Afterwards, I was thinking, wishing I maybe tried that. But anyways, I c-bet $250, and the villain quickly calls.
Okay. So now we got 925 in the pot.
925 in the pot, and what if you're in this position now? Are you kind of already in like give up mode? Like let's not exacerbate things by barreling again.
Yeah, it sounds like your default move here is to c-bet, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to c-bet most certainly, especially when I'm squeezing big. I'm going to stick with my story that I got a big hand.
Yeah, he's probably calling with, man, a lot of pairs here, I'd say.
Well, he's going to call with any pair.
Yeah,
this player, I think. The question for the double barrel is, well, is he going to believe me? Also, is he capable of calling the flop with nothing?
Yeah.
Is he capable of calling the flop where, he called with,
Jack 10 or something, or
yeah, something like that, or he called even with ace jack suited of hearts.
Yeah.
And he's got absolutely nothing, but he knows that that I'm going to miss a lot, and so anyways, my mentality was I don't really care what the turn card is. I'm taking the damn pot down here. I'm gonna, and like I said, and the turn is a red 5.
Okay.
I think it was a 5 of hearts. So now we have like queen of spades, 8 of spades, 3 of diamonds, 5 of hearts. So again, that obviously does nothing for my ace king.
Yeah.
And I bet $575.
575. Okay.
So I don't know if I'm going to double barrel, should I almost make it bigger? I don't know. I mean, like afterwards, again, I'm breaking this hand down. I was like, well, rather because I'm definitely not going to fire 3 barrels with air here. I mean, it's just, I could consider. I think we both started the hand with over $2,000.
Okay.
So like me betting 650 here and then shoving the river is just probably not something I want to do against this player.
Yeah.
But anyways, I bet 575 and he tanks for quite a bit. He thinks for 30 seconds plus and he calls.
Oh,
and again, this is a pro I'm not going to get any read on. Like, does he, I mean, in terms of ranging him, I'm thinking he definitely has a pair or he's got a big draw. Yeah, although the flush draw, yeah, I don't know. The flush draw, I think he might have even be tempted to raise either the flop or the turn, because he doesn't want to put so much money in the pot and then have to give up on the river.
Yeah.
But so basically, I'm done with this hand.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping to hit an ace or a king. Or I'm hoping,
and you might even check it if you do.
yeah, and I'm hoping that the spade draw misses, and then and he does not fire at it, and he's got he's got
ace 10 or ace jack or something.
He's got ace 10 or ace jack of spades,
Yeah.
But I put 575 in, and now it's $2,075 in the pot, and the river is a 9 of clubs, I believe. So, okay. I mean, I probably have got 1400, I mean, I didn't even consider shoving here.
Yeah.
I think he's got a hand, and I think I'm getting called. Although, like I said, he did take a long time on the turn. So he probably thought there was a decent chance that I might have had it. And,
I don't know. At this point, I'm putting them on like jacks, maybe 10s.
Right. Ace queen, possibly. I think ace queen, he probably calls a little quicker on the turn because there's fewer hands so few hands that beat him at that point.
Ace queen, though, would he call that pre-flop raise? Maybe he would from your, because you could have 10s or jacks there if you squeezed, or you could have 8s or 9s or something like that. Yeah, he might call with ace queen.
And I'm usually one of the more active players amongst the regulars too. So I mean, I also capable of squeezing there with 4-8.
Okay.
I mean, so
wow.
Okay. I mean, I've done that before. I've squeezed once when there's like 6-7 people in the pot, and I actually squeezed once with like deuce 7, and showed it, just for laughs.
Okay.
Not like to stick at anyone's, So I give up I check on the flop on the river, and he takes a few seconds before betting 600. Really small amounts. So there's 26.75 in the pot.
600 for you to call.
And there is a misdraw. It looks like he's begging for a call. I mean, I tanked for like 6 seconds or so, and I showed him face up. I said, I'm going to be really ticked off if you've got the ace king of spades here, and you've missed your draw. And I just threw it in there. And what was interesting is this guy is, we're very friendly. And I said, I never know what to do with that damn ace king there. And I said, what do you do there? Is it, do you, he's like, no, I squeeze and just throw in one bet and give up. So it's kind of funny. We were talking about the hand, and like, this is a hand that comes up again and again. So I thought that's, I said, but
he squeezes, throws in a C bet, and if he gets resistance, he's done.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it depends on the villain, but against like a pro, he would just say, okay, yeah. I mean, we didn't get too much into it, but he said pretty much he would have given up. But I said, I thought maybe you were capable of just floating with crap, and it's first time I was kind of trying to get him talk about what he had. I'm like, did he just draw it? And then afterwards we were talking about it for a while, and he felt like, I guess he's just being generous. He's like, I had 8-9. He's like, I hit it, and it totally makes sense. Middle pair, the turn bet put a lot of pressure on him. I think if I bet more there, if I bet 750, if I bet 3/4 pot or so, I think maybe I'd get a fold there. And then the river hits 2 pair.
Yeah, he's not folding at that point.
And the river, and he's looking to get a little value, so he throws a little bet, hoping that I've, maybe just was in check call mode with tens or jacks or something.
Yeah.
But obviously I had nothing. But
8-9. Oh, I didn't think he had that. Okay.
well, that would make sense, because you're like, is he a guy who called with ace queen? And really the answer is no,
Yeah.
because he knows, again, 8-9 against my range. Again, my range can be kind of wide there, but I'm not going crazy squeezing out of the blinds. Usually I've got something, I guess. Although I've done it with crap before, certainly.
Yeah.
Usually if I have like a lot of chips or something, but yeah. So he's like, oh, you just played it fine, and he's like, I almost folded on the turn, and is this just one of those times where I played a hand, decent, and ran into it? But again, so after this, but it's kind of funny when we go to the next hand. I said, okay, I'm just done with just ace king, just call and just hope to hit it, for God's sakes, out of position.
Yeah. I like your squeeze there from the big blind, because I think if you just call, at 5-5, if you call 25, even if you hit a king, you never know where the heck you are, because, let's say the flop came down, I don't know, king 8-3 with two spades or something. Somebody could have been in there with pocket threes, which they would have folded had you raised. I don't know. I just never feel comfortable calling in that spot with ace king. I'd rather get heads up with one guy, and it seems to be so much easier to play, even though this hand may not be the best example of a hand that's easy to play, but it's easier to play against one guy than it would be if you were going to four people to the flop, not including, so 5 people to the flop against 4 opponents, It was just, my initial thought was to raise to 165, and I don't know where I got that number, but that's just the number that I just pulled out of thin air. Then on the turn, or on the flop, you bet 250 into 425. I might have bet a little bit, maybe a little bit less than this. If there's pots 425, I might have bet I don't know, 220, 200, something like that.
Okay.
Just because I missed, and if they're sitting there with something like, I don't know, if they have your hand, ace king, are they going to float there? Or if they have ace jack, or if they don't have anything, are they going to call? On the turn, I don't know what I would have done, man. I really don't. I might have bet like you did. I might have checked. I don't know. But those were the two things that I saw, was just maybe bet a little, maybe raise a little bit more on the flop, and like you said, if you asked him if you raised 200, would he have called? And he said no. So
that was the other thing. Yeah. And I didn't ask him about the turn, but I think the same thing, maybe the turn, my late obsession with bet sizing, just bomb it. If you're saying you have it, and just bet like you have it, like you want someone to put their money in. If it's 925, then bet 775, or bet pot even. And that really, and that also takes away the question of whether you're going to shove the river, kind of thing. I think if you're just, you're kind of making your stand there on the turn. But I think I played it okay, and I think the villain obviously got lucky.
Yeah, he got lucky, and he made a good call, and yeah.
But again, it's every situation changes. But I think this was like the third or fourth time I had squeezed with ace king from the blinds and got called by one or more people and ended up losing a pot when I missed.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our next hand.
Okay.
And this was my last session. And quickly, the guy who turned out to be the villain of this hand limps under the gun. So it limps $5.
Okay.
And this guy's interesting. He's actually a reality TV star, although I've never seen the show. Because he started, somebody recognized him. He's like, yeah, that's me. He's on Storage Wars. Have you ever seen that show?
Oh yeah, I have seen that show. Yeah.
Anyway, the guy Renee, he's like, anyways, he's like this big fat kind of. People say, oh yeah, I look like John Candy. People tell me that because he was mocking me pretty bad. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
And getting.
I'll have to watch the show again. I can't remember. I can't think of who Renee is.
Yeah, he's like, well, once I didn't, because he was kind of getting it with another guy, and I thought he was, at first I was kind of for him because somebody else was snapping at him. I'm like, he's just, happy-go-lucky, fat dude is having fun. Let him. He's like giving people. But then it's funny. I had a hand with somebody else, and this guy had check. I played with this guy before, and he had defended from the. I opened with King 10 from middle position. He defended from the blinds, and I had air, and I c-bet, and he raised, check raised. And this is a guy who always buys in short. He bought in for 300, and my c-bet was probably 35, and he made it 90, and it's like kind of a weird spot with his stack too. I just basically had to shove it in there. But anyways, this guy check raised, and I fold, and I said, go ahead, show your bluff, and he flipped over King Jack. He had air too.
Yeah.
But he likes showing when with his bluffs.
Yeah.
And the guy next to me is like, oh, I thought he had a queen there. He had top pair. And I'm like, no, I've played with him. He's capable of bluffing there. But anyways, he limps under the gun. And 2 to his left is this Asian woman who knows everyone, plays a lot of poker. I don't know what she does for a living, but she's pretty solid. She raises she'll raise limpers quite a bit, so she raises to 30.
Okay.
And then let's see, how many callers are there here? I believe there's 3 callers to her raise of 30. And then I have ace king in the small blind.
Okay.
And I decided to just call. I actually took a couple seconds, and this will be a factor later, because while I'm heads up, the Asian girl steps in, is like, he almost raised pre-flop.
Yeah.
So I was I actually pulled out a bunch of chips, and I'm like, I think this was a session. I told you I was up like over 1,000, maybe 1,500, and ended up, leaving just up where I think I was up, and then lost a couple pots. And I'm like, I just didn't want to put a lot of money into this pot. And I'm like, a lot of people could call.
Yeah, I'm going to hit and go with my hand, or miss and forget it, or
yeah,
is that your mentality? Or
yeah, basically I just said I'm just gonna flat and hope an ace comes or a king comes. If not, I'm done with this hand.
Yeah.
So, and I think the big blind folds, and it goes back to the original limper, and he calls.
Okay.
So there's actually 6 people going to this flop.
Wow. Okay.
And it's kind of, so there's $185 in the pot. 6 people with 30, and then the big blind. And the flop is ace deuce 4 rainbow.
That's a good flop.
That's pretty good. Any thought of just leading out here?
If you lead, I would lead for I would probably lead something like 155 to 165. I would make it big. And if you don't lead, I would go for the check raise, and I would make that big. Because you're in the small blind. Man, that's a tough one. Because now that I'm thinking about it, they're probably going to put you on something like, well, they could put you on 3-5. Would you call on the big blind with 3-5? White. 2-4. They could put you on ace 4. Man.
Well, yeah, I mean, technically I'm the one who'd most likely have a crappy hand here.
Yeah.
Deuce 4, 2 pair kind of thing. And, lead. If I had 3-5 leading out with the nuts, depending on who the villains, the competition was, I might just lead out, because the check raise looks so much stronger.
Yeah.
If somebody bets 75 and you raise, people are folding any one pair hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where here, if I lead out, people could think I'm stealing it, maybe even try to re-raise, whatever. But anyways, frankly, I'll be honest, I don't remember if my plan was to check raise or just check call. If it was just one person bet and like 3 people folded, I would probably just be leaning towards check calling.
Yeah.
And letting the person fire again with hopefully their crappier aces or their air. But anyways, I checked, and everyone else checks behind.
Ooh. What came on the turn? Like a 5?
The turn is a 4.
Huh, okay.
And I bet 80.
Okay.
I don't know about my bet. Like, my bet sizing is pretty small, but I really thought no one had anything. And I was like, I guess I wanted to bet small, thinking probably everyone's going to fold. But if someone like raises big or something here, okay, somebody's got 5-4 or something, some bit of crap here, and I can get away kind of cheap.
Yeah.
So I bet 80, and then the villain, under the gun guy who originally limped, calls, and the other 4 players all fold.
Okay, so the reality TV show guy called the villain.
Yes.
Okay, villain calls 80. Okay.
So there's $345 in the pot going to the river.
Okay.
And the river is a 9. No flush on board. So the final board is ace, deuce, 4, 4, 9.
Okay.
Are you? What is your thought here? Are you betting and thinking he's probably got a crummier ace? I mean, that are you betting for value here?
Yeah, I think I would probably bet 180, maybe 160. Try to get a crying call from, or maybe even a confident call from ace 8, ace 10, ace jack. What's he? Oh, let's see. He limped.
Yeah, he limped, called, and he was active. He was in a lot of pots, but if he got raised, he was not. He was a decent player. You can kind of tell. I mean, I too active.
Okay.
But
a little bit too loose.
Not putting like crazy bluffs in, or he was never going to make it to a river in a hand with like a 3-8 with a bunch of paint on the board. Just
okay.
Like hanging around just to bluff and rep a flush or something.
Yeah, well, that since he limped under the gun and then called a raise, I don't know. He could have a. Yeah, I'd probably throw out a little value bet. 150 to 160, 170, something like that.
Well, I bet 175.
Okay.
He takes a little while. It's like I thought he was debating whether to call or fold.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy who spent a lot of time in front of the camera, I guess, has been going to acting school, maybe trying to pretend to look nervous here. But he raises. I'm kind of surprised where he says raise, and then throws in 375. So 200 more to me. And of course, now I'm getting just like a ridiculous price here, where I have to call just 200 to win a pot of. Geez, I guess it's 895.
345.
550 plus 355. So yeah, I mean, he only has to be bluffing here, like barely at all, not even 20%.
Yeah. Yeah, 4.5 to 1.
So this is the reason I bring up this hand it's the ace king thing, but this is also one of those where I'm like, I told you I'm just a calling station and paying people off. And this would be a classic example in my mind of someone who's just never bluffing. Like if this were a pro, or if this was an amateur who was a lunatic, which he's not, or a pro's capable of putting me on, knowing exactly what I have, putting me on a strong ace, and they have a weak ace, and turning their value hand into a bluff, typical thing. Or just floating with crap, I guess, possible. Not in a 6-way pot. But basically, my thought is, well, he's got it every time. I'm second best, and I should be folding. And like I said, I've seen this hand. If I've had 50 sessions there's one of these hands every single time where there's like $200 or $300, which is just thrown into the pot when I'm like certain I'm beat. And that adds up.
Yeah.
That's $10,000 or $15,000 alone right there. If like I said, if this hand's been replayed, I mean, I'm letting you know what happens here. This is not I'm not building.
He has 4, right?
And I actually flipped over the ace king, and I said I'm much stronger than you probably think I am here, sir. And of course, ace king is almost the same as ace jack or ace 10 or something. I mean, he's repping it like trips at the least here.
Yeah.
Possibly ace 9. And it's funny. I said I'm much strong, and then it's funny. The Asian girl was like, "Oh, we all thought you were strong. You almost raised." Then the dealer shushed her. She's not supposed to be talking. Not that I really care.
Yeah.
But
Oh, he had pocket deuces, huh?
I'm like, my hand's so strong here, sir. I got to. I'm going to have to pay you off. And he did look kind of nervous when I flipped the ace king over.
Huh.
He flipped. I called. I said, I'm going to have to pay you off. And I didn't think there was any chance I had that, but I was just like, he's giving me a price. I got ace king. I hit my flop.
Yeah.
And regardless of the price I was getting, I didn't think there was a chance I was good. And he flipped over 3-5. He had flopped the nut. He flopped the nut straight. Yeah. And afterwards, it's funny. He's like, he's like, man, did I look nervous? I was really trying to look nervous. I said, yeah, good job. You look nervous.
Yeah, your acting classes worked.
So my thinking was, there's a possibility, like, he thought I had like a weaker ace. Like I called with ace rag and he's got ace queen. I mean, this is all trying to justify it after the fact. Or I could say, well, this guy's just looking to make a move on me. But yeah, this is just a good poker player makes that fold. And right now, that's a fold I'm just not making.
Yeah, well, before you beat yourself too much about this, when you're getting 4.5 to 1, and on this board, as played, your hand is so under-repped, you got to call there. You know what I mean? Like, against an amateur that, like, I think you're being a little too results-oriented. Maybe I'm wrong, but, I mean, you have ace-king on this.
Yeah, but this guy doesn't care what I'm repping. It's like, first of all, this in a 6-way pot, me firing twice while I'm in the river, we're just heads up. Yeah, I mean, there's no missed flush draws out there. Like, he can literally go to the river with nothing other than a weaker ace or some sort of monster hand he's slow playing here. And the weaker ace is just calling there every time. It's even ace queen or ace jack or whatever is, and even ace nine. I don't even know if they're raising the river, but I mean, maybe this is just me beating myself up, but this is, believe me, Steve, I've seen this hand a million times here, where it's just raising rivers on a bluff is just not in the repertoire of a lot of amateurs. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, some of them will surprise you. I mean, believe me, I've seen these guys who are like, these 70-year-old dudes who seem like they've just played as straightforward as possible. All of a sudden, they watch the pros. They've seen us bang heads and, so I guess the price was so good. I can maybe justify the call and not kill myself for it.
Well, look at it from his perspective. Okay, you just called out of the small blind. So you could have just about anything there. Then you check the flop. Right? So, it's pretty tough to put a guy on ace king when he just calls there from the small blind, and then when he checks the flop. Right? And then when you lead the turn for less than half pot, I don't know. I mean, at that point, I'm thinking like pocket threes plus, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not. If anyone's there, and it checks all the way through, I'm thinking like, well, probably no one has an ace. Maybe on the turn somebody's got like pocket threes, pocket fives, pocket sixes, something in that ballpark. Just to call. Like, I'm not putting you on ace king. If I have like ace queen by the river, I'm probably throwing in a little value bet raise. Ace jack, ace 10. I'm thinking you got like sevens there. And
why can't I have a 4? Why can't I have 5-4 or some suited?
You could, but it's just so, like, I think that's just a small part of your range. I think there's a lot of other stuff in there that you could have, or a weaker ace than ace 10, or a weaker ace than ace jack, if that's what he's got. I mean, if I got ace queen on that river, I think I'm doing a little raise just like he did. If I have ace jack there, I think I'm doing a little raise like he did. Ace 10, Ace 9 for sure, though.
I don't know. I think raising that river with ace jack, unless it's, I guess it's the old merged bet where you're like, you could say, well, a weaker ace might call and a stronger ace might fold. But no, I put him right away. I did not put him on the straight. Again, like talking about trying to range some of these amateur players who just want to see flops. I mean, he wanted to see a flop with 3-5. So rather than raising, he's like, I'll limp and hopefully the re-raise won't be too big and I can flop the world. Yeah. So I thought like pocket nines maybe would have made more sense to him. Oh, that probably wouldn't be limping. Or he had a full house. I mean, even like he had like ace 4 or something like that. He had me all along. But I mean, I guess, it should be just broken down into mathematics and say, okay, F it, I got to pay the guy off here, which is what I said. But like I said it I was absolutely certain. I just said, there's just no way I'm good here, sir, but I've got to pay you off because, I've got an ace king and I don't know. That's just, like I left the session ahead and that's like the one hand that stood out kind of starkly for, that was the only one I really didn't like the way I played. I can't really remember too many other hands from that session, but but it's kind of interesting because like I said, we had just been talking about how to play ace king, and so you can do it. This is poker. You can do it right in different ways and still get spanked.
Yeah.
And again, this also shows my problem, which is going to be just to stop paying people off and. I've seen people in that very similar situation. It's kind of funny because there was another hand similar that night with this one guy who's this like retired dealer. And he always wins money there. I always see him. He always buys in for the same amount, 1,200. And I swear he's always there for like 3 hours and leaves with 1,500 to 2,500. He's always up. I mean, obviously that's not true. But like I've seen him in that situation where he would just check it down to the river even.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like if you build a pot, somebody's like in a big with 6 ways, ace king just isn't that strong. I mean, there's just so much other crap that people could be hitting. Yeah. But there was a very similar hand that night where, he checked and then called the river and showed ace king, which was like the best hand, or a big ace. It's one of those things where people, it was like a 4 or 5 way, at least multi-way pot where it flopped an ace, but he was out of position, I think in one of the blinds. It wasn't ace king, but he just checked, and then checked on the river and called the river when someone bet. And he dragged a little small pot. Which, if no one has an ace and he bets the turn and everyone's going to fold anyway, so I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you can lose value that way too, obviously. I didn't see what the other person had, that hand. But, I don't know. If you're going to, like I said, I thought I was so happy with myself when that flop hit. I said, oh, look at this. I didn't, I didn't raise ace king. I was just going to decide to be flop dependent. Now I'm going to make a little bit of money here. And like I said, I ended up losing whatever it was, $500 that hand.
No, maybe this is one of those hands where you're better than me in this situation, Mike, because I would have paid him off without thinking twice about it. And then when he showed the 3-5, I'd been like, well, nothing I could do about that. Jeez, how do you?
Right.
When he raises, I guess I don't feel great, but my hand is so under-repped that I don't see how you can fold there. I just don't. Because you didn't re-raise pre-flop. You checked it on the flop when you. Yeah, you flop a great hand on the flop, and you still check it, and I wouldn't beat yourself up about this one.
Well, yeah, like I said, I could not think of one hand he was doing it with that I beat. I really couldn't. Like I disagree. I just don't think this guy is ever gonna raise ace jack or ace queen there for value. Okay. I think he'd always be worried that he might. Maybe I could have a full house there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think with an ace,
That's a good point. Yeah, you were in the small blind and you did. Yeah, okay.
and especially him tank raising too.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You know, I mean, like I mean, you never know how good people are. Like I said, if it was a pro, you got to call. I think. I mean, it depends. You know, I'm just trying to, just in terms of following my instincts. But I guess, you know, to contradict myself, it was the other day I was talking about the hand where the guy bluffed me off the queens with, you know, the ace king king on there, and I'm like, I was following my instinct. He had to have it. Where I'm like, it should have been just mathematical.
Yeah.
Where this was like 2,000 of the pot, and the guy bet 575, and I was getting a great price. And I guess this one you could say is similar to that, because, yeah, I guess I had to call, like you said, 4.5 to 1, and there was a chance that he was raising with ace queen, I suppose. But at the time, I just knew I was beat. I don't know. I just dismissed everything other than a full house, or a 4.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of the straight, because like I said, this guy was playing like almost every hand, but I thought 3-5 would be one hand. Maybe he would just fold.
Yeah, it's hard to put a guy on 3-5 under the gun.
Yeah, he wasn't. It wasn't even suited. So, yeah, I don't know if the criteria is the one thing. I guess you can make it. My squeezing on the last table, you could say, was a little more dangerous. It was going to be a little more difficult because the guy who raised under the gun was a really good pro.
Yeah.
Who would maybe just float with nothing and make me put in another barrel, or, you know, I mean, beyond the fact that he's not going to have like 3-5 in his opening range. You know, he's going to have, if he sees a flop, he's probably going to have a decent hand.
Yeah.
And on this one, conversely, this is like a weaker table. Or at least the villain. Yeah, this was definitely a weaker table, where, you know, why even just let up this many people see the flop?
Yeah.
Like, raise it, build it, and then if somebody calls, you know, then you can feel better about double barreling, because they're much less likely to call you down with second pair, like this other player did in the pot I squeezed in. So, like I said, the two ace king hands, neither of them both of them at a certain level were played standardly, and under many circumstances, I'm, you know, making a profit the way I played those hands. So these just happen to be the ones I lost. But yeah, the last one, I was just, because I was, like I said, I mean, that is just really my problem in a nutshell, which is will tilt control and just refusing to give up on a pot, and just refusing to be bluffed, and just being a calling station. And anyways, you know, the gig's not over. I have time to improve at this game, and eventually, the big test is not only that I can lay down a hand, but I can lay down a hand and someone can show me a bluff, and I'm not going to be too upset about it. I'll just say, okay, good, you made it. You know, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm folding the best hand sometimes. I need to do that since I'm calling with the worst so frequently. That's that's the risk.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, but anyways, we got some good hands to discuss here.
Yeah.
So how much longer are you in Vegas for?
Another few days, probably. Another
Okay.
few days. Yeah, I'll be heading home soon. I got to go back to work on the. Yeah, in a few more days, I got to go back to work, and I'd like to be back a little bit sooner than that, so that I can kind of get everything squared away. And
how does the wife and your mom get along?
Oh, really good, really good. They're very alike in certain aspects. It was funny because we went and looked at Panorama Towers today. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. It's basically like one of those high-rise apartment buildings
right
by the Strip. And it's our goal to move out here to Vegas in the next 5 years. After 5 years, when I'm, I'd like to move on from the fire service and start playing cards professionally. And I think Vegas is probably the best place to do it. And
I'd say so.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about this Panorama Towers right across the street from the Aria and the Bellagio. And so we went and took a look today. And man, it is pretty impressive. Some of those apartments, one of these ones with the killer view, with the 50 feet of, just nothing but glass looking out at the Strip, and you could see the lights at night and all this.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I would want to live, if I was a poker player, live right on Strip. So, if I get in a drunken fist fight, I can run home before the fuzz shows up. These are the sort of factors that you and I would have different sort of factors in living conditions,
Ironically, even though you're just right across the street from the Bellagio, it probably takes the same amount of time to go from the 30th floor down to the bottom and either walk or jog over to the Bellagio, or to go all the way down to the parking garage, get in your car, and then drive around, go over the bridge, and then get into the parking lot, park, and then get to the poker room. You could probably get there in the same amount of time that you could driving from South Las Vegas from a house and
Right.
get up there. Because where my brother lives, he used to be able to place a bet. He's a sports bettor. He used to be able to place a bet from his old house, which is, it's at the south end of Vegas. If anyone knows Vegas, it's off Blue Diamond. And he could get from there to the Wynn and place a bet at the window in 15 minutes. So, you're really not saving that much time being that close. And, you're not saving as much time as you like. Now, the view is unprecedented once you get into these like $1 million apartments. It is awesome with the balcony. That's, you're
Right.
stepping out onto the balcony, looking down 30 floors. You just feel like you're king of the world. But you give up a lot too. You don't have a parking garage in. I mean, simple little things like, you take the elevator 30 floors down, you get down to the lobby, and then you realize, oh, I forgot my wallet, my car keys. You got to take the elevator all the way back up, and of course it stops, every 10th floor because someone else has to go up or down, and then it's like that. Just going to Costco and getting groceries for the week, now you're in an apartment, and it's not like you just pull up to your house and you carry groceries inside. Well, now you got a trunk full of groceries, and to get them up to your apartment, you got to stop your car, unload all your groceries, put them on this little wheeled dolly. Then you got to give the valet guy $5 so he can take your groceries up 30 floors, drop them off on your at your door while you're parking your car, and then you go all the way back up to the top. And there are a lot of amenities. I mean, like you got a you got a limo there that is available. Almost pretty much except for like the midnight hours and stuff. It's available all the time for free. You just give the guy a $15 tip, and he'll take you pretty much within a 3-mile radius, so you can pick up family members at the airport when they come in a limo. They have an awesome gym. They've got a spa and a pool, and they have all these amenities.
Yeah, for bachelorhood, I think this would be ideal. But, if you're going to be married and family, I think off Strip, get the little suburban house would be preferable.
We have no plans for kids, but for just the two of us too, like I've got a lot of stuff. I mean, I got a bunch of tools, and I got a gun safe with like 6 guns, and I've got just a table saw and a chop saw, and like hundreds of pounds of
Right.
sockets and wrenches and
Okay.
all that stuff I would have to sell. And get rid of, and I can no longer work on my car anymore. There's all these little things that you kind of take for granted that just have to get rid of.
I didn't know you were a man's man with all those tools. I pictured just like a soft plush carpet and a hula hoop in your garage for some reason.
No, it's more like the sweatband with the tight butt hugger shorts. The Richard
Yeah,
Simmons.
I thought you were a bit of a dandy. See, we're learning about each other here.
You never know.
So how much is like a condo, even just like 10 miles outside of Vegas? Can you get like a 2-bedroom condo for $200K or under, or no?
Oh God, way less than that.
You can. Okay.
Yeah, you can buy a condo right now. I've got a couple of rental properties out here. One of which is a condo, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Probably 10 minutes from the Strip, and it's I bought it for 106. Gosh, it's been almost 10 years. And now it's probably worth 80.
Oh.
And you can get them cheap. You can get them for under 100. And they're nice too. A lot of the stuff in Vegas is really new. Most of the stuff is built fairly recently. It's not like there's a lot of I mean, there are old areas, of course, but most of the stuff on the south end in Henderson and over by Blue Diamond and Summerlin, most of it's fairly new. The real estate market's slowly recovering, slowly going back up.
Right. Well, I want you to realize the dream and have a nice place in Vegas, so I have a free place to stay.
Yes.
You see? All about me. Okay, brother. Well, good luck the rest of your Vegas trip here.
Thank you. You have a good night, and
Happy New Year. I will not be talking to you until 2015. So
that's right. Happy New Year.
All of you can subscribe to us on iTunes. Heads Up Poker Podcast.
Heads Up Poker Podcast. You can also email us at headsuppokerpodcast@gmail.com. And you can check out our blog at headsuppokerpodcast.blogspot.com. Those are all the ways to get a hold of us.
Cool beans.
Yes. You guys have a good one. Have a good night. And yeah.
Steve, talk to you soon.
All right, brother.
Bye.
Make good decisions at the table, and I'll talk to you in a week.
That's the plan.